Okay, welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to Pathfinder Campaign Log 4. And if you're wondering what the heck this is, well, this is my least popular type of video. Welcome. So, this is a series that I do just because I enjoy it so much, and I want to keep a record of the shenanigans we've been getting into. I tried to talk with Sam over Discord and that just didn't work out, but I did message with him a little bit and he sent me a great summary of his view of things. So I asked him a few questions about how things have come to this point, so this would be a good time to jump in if you're looking for a review of things so far. And Sam says, in the beginning of this campaign, it was the complete opposite of what it is now. This was initially just a basic house rules hack and slash centered around just getting together to have fun. And I absolutely agree, that's what I was looking forward to, just some feel-good bro time with a couple of the guys, and me and the boys slaying monsters. Recently, he says, it has evolved to an actual campaign, and I saw the gears spinning in his head last night as we were talking about, well, the future for our characters. It's something that's really starting to emerge through the gameplay, and that is one of the most valuable aspects of these little house games, of games like Pathfinder. He says, carrying on, the cat army. I asked him about the cat army. So, my character started the game in possession of 200 ordinary house cats, and there is a reason for that I talked about in the other videos, but here was Sam's response to the cat army. We were generally followed by upwards of a dozen ordinary house cats that would also attack monsters in combat and help us out immensely, although the die rolling got a little bit ridiculous. Sam says the cat army to me was just an oddball idea that you had come up with. Sure, at first it was hilarious to witness, but you can only stomach 15 separate cats fighting for so long before you want to bring about their inevitable demise. That's basically what happened. We sort of came to the understanding that the military arm of the cat cult is probably better served by things more substantial as far as prowess than the common house cat. Talking about how things started to shape up story-wise, Sam says, after the last session the two of you started to have a dialogue about your characters' backstories, and it was the first time that you and David had done so. It gave me the reason and some material to flesh out a coherent story based on the two of you. And so these are things that we can look forward to in the next few episodes of the Pathfinder Log. I asked him what we could look forward to, and he says two factions are going to play a huge factor in the coming sessions: the Order of Topaz and the Cult of Barusha. Now, as for his view of events coming up to where we are now, I'll sort of work that into my recounting of events, and this is just sort of my best recollection. Wisdom and Makoto in town. I can't even remember the name of this major city that we're in. It's basically just, in my mind, it's just the place we go to spend all the beautiful gold we find. We're in town. We had just sold a dragon for parts, and we picked up a little bit more gear. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I got a belt of incredible dexterity +2 and agile rapier. So ordinarily you deal your strength modifier as bonus damage when you hit with a melee weapon. That shouldn't be news to you guys that know Pathfinder. And there's a feat you can take that requires the weapon finesse feat, which my character has, that allows you to deal extra dexterity damage instead of strength damage. So my dex mod was a +8 at that point, which is absolutely ludicrous. Again, homebrew game, we're just screwing around and having fun. Sam let me have these things that made me just ridiculous. And they're all, you know, things that you could find in the Pathfinder world, and my character just started with legendary stats, so that's that. I'm playing a Kitsune character, which is one of the bonus races in the Eastern setting for the Pathfinder worlds, and they are a lot of fun to play, because not only do I have adorable fox ears and natural shape-changing abilities, but I can grow magical tails as a feat, and that is just kinda neat. But I think I've talked about that before. So, we became acquainted with the... what was it called? It's called like the Brotherhood of F or something. And many effing puns were made that night, I assure you. We arrive at this dungeon, surprising no one, and this time it was a little more complex than some of the other areas we had been in, which was kind of exciting. New doors to kick down, rooms to loot, monsters to face, and we ended up facing some juiced up gigantic zombies, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe not. That was, after all, sort of the welcoming party. We had with us Doug Mark IV, the NPC of convenience that Sam had introduced, a drow rogue trap monkey. So his job was to disarm traps for us and just generally be a disgusting humanoid. I think he was like a level 4 vegan and a true neutral drow, which is just heresy. He was utterly sickening. I think he ended up eating a collateral fire explosion to the face at some point, but I mean, I'm not saying he deserved it, but he didn't go out of his way to be one of our favorite NPCs, if that's what you were wondering. There was nothing special about him, other than the fact that there was nothing special about him, which is just kind of... well, first off, I'm kind of prejudiced against any drow characters. I think they're bollocks. But maybe I'm just jaded. I've played too many RPGs. Anyway, I know, tough talk coming from a furry, but shut your hole. I'm a shapechanger, not a furry. Anyway, we get into this dungeon. Doug Mark IV is doing his thing, disarming traps for us, and oh, we also had a bag of holding that our Mr. Frumple had sent us off with, and graciously allows us to keep, so that'll be interesting. It's nice to have the whole inventory system streamlined. I don't even keep track of the party gold. That's all David. David is a real workhorse of a player. You haven't heard me talk much about David's role in the game, and that... I think that's mostly because he's really let me take a front row seat when it comes to the adventuring, and he's just always been there to back me up as the accountant and the one who keeps track of things, and then I get to do the stupid, ridiculous stuff that should get us killed. And if Sam was not just being a friend and hanging out among friends, I'm sure we would have already died for our sins. But anyway, we get into this dungeon and we're rubbing our hands together. You know, we had a great time last time fighting undead, and a little birdie told me that there was more taint of evil in this dungeon, which for a paladin who has really come into his abilities is just the best thing you can possibly hear. Den of stink and evil, prepare for my boot. Minsk, why were you a ranger when you so clearly desired to be a paladin? But I digress. Miniature giant space hamsters aside, we were already having a great time in this dungeon because we didn't need to worry about traps. It's always nice to have a trap monkey in the party, and Doug Mark IV was doing his job nicely. Eventually, we find a room with 2. It almost seems like this was a test of the emergency inflate the stats of the monsters system, because Sam had already mentioned that the monsters at or around even several levels above the CR we should be facing if we were balanced characters. Just not really doing much, so he pulled some quick maneuvering and tried adjusting the stats of some fun looking monsters, and we faced off against 2, what were they? Undead ogres. Oh man, I got an ogre slaying. No, we're not doing that. I actually do have an ogre slaying knife in my house. It has a +9 against ogres. It's engraved on the blade. That's my kitchen knife, actually. But again, I digress. It's one of those things I do, by the way. This is more than anything just a ramble video for me, where I can have a good time and remember some good times with friends. So when we're old men kicking our colostomies around, we can look back fondly on these memories. Anyway, let me... Let's adjust real here. What does Sam say here? Shopping trip. We check out the Explorer Society. We met Reginald Arthur Furfelflumter the 73rd. That's what his name is. We're told to go retrieve the dungeon core. We enter the dungeon. We fight a couple of souped up ogre zombies, and his words here is, we attempted to sexually harass a prophetic statue. Hey, it wasn't me. I think I used Detect Evil on it because I'm a paladin, and I just spammed the heck out of that supernatural ability. Sorry, there was a little bit of gut pain, but that's me and not you. Don't worry about it. So it was Wisdom, David's character, who attempted to interface with the statue, as it were. Don't get any wrong ideas. He only got to first base, and then he got one of those Deus Ex Machina visions of bloody battles against a demonic host of monsters. And could it be a vision of the future? Of the past? Is there a third choice? Probably not. So, plot hook incoming, I'm sure. And that was all. The statue just gave him one of those Mass Effect visions, and then we pieced out. And then, going down a hallway, we found 4 ogre zombies. So, they must have been chilling out, relaxing, and maxing all cool on their way, no doubt, to... what? Play some basketball outside of the school? When a couple of adventurers definitely... okay, I'll stop. We took out these zombie ogres one by one because they were crammed into this narrow hallway. They could only attack us one at a time. Again, I feel like this was sort of a test to see what our characters could put up with, or maybe just a convenient situation. In any event, no better way to take on 4 zombie ogres than one at a time, if you ask for my humble opinion. And we did take some hits, and man, those zombie ogres hit hard. But we were also able to heal our damage fairly effectively. David's character is a cleric who has very effective healing abilities, including the ability to channel energy, and my character is a paladin with lay on hands, which I can use as a swift action to heal myself, which is quite handy, if you'll pardon the pun. after that, we encountered a pair of undead wyverns. And let me tell you something. If you thought that a zombie ogre was intimidating, a wyvern zombie is even worse. And they were indeed a bucket, a boatload, and a grip ton of hit points in the saggy skin of a fearsome beast. And it should have been a lot more dangerous, except that I had a ridiculous armor class at that point. I think when I decided to fight defensively, which I might as well because it's pretty hard for me to miss against, you know, large undead creatures, I think I could have around a 30 armor class, which is pretty nay-nay. So they got nay-nayed pretty well. And one thing I forgot to mention is that I was extremely fond of rolling ones. So I rolled a ridiculous number of ones in this battle and in the previous battles. I was rolling for our hunting cat, which is just basically a trained leopard who is trained for combat, who also is available for me to ride since my character is small size now. I experienced some shrinkage in our last session, which you can look up if you're wondering about that. And I was rolling for our cat, and our cat critically failed extremely hard on an attack and almost ended up wiping himself out. But we pulled through. And those dice avoided going into dice prison, or even worse, execution. What else? At some point, we learned this is a test, and in the last room that we need to clear to finish our mission, our audition, as it were, to be part of this explorers society, is a lich who is sort of bonded with his throne. He must have been making YouTube videos because he just never got up off the couch, and he ended up joining with it. This enemy lich made the mistake of attempting to cast spells without casting defensively, and I just kept on getting attacks of opportunity on him. And then he tried to do a touch attack, which, you guessed it, provokes an attack of opportunity. So I'm just standing there, having this lich as my target of Smite Evil, and I was rolling ones on my attacks during my turn, but every time this lich tried to do something, I was just standing in his square, beating the bejesus out of him. And I think he never got a spell off just because of how much damage he was taking trying to do things. He did get a touch attack on Wisdom, but overall we just nuked him from orbit. It was fantastic. Being a paladin and fighting things that are evil or undead, just delightful. And I didn't realize it, but I was looking up the rules for Smite Evil to see how many uses I get at my next level, and it is going to be, I think, level 7 before I get another use per day. But that's fine, because Smite Evil is ridiculously effective in Pathfinder, and I didn't know that you deal double bonus damage against things that have the undead, dragon, or outsider subtype if they're also evil. So that's pretty awesome. That means that I should have been dealing another 5 points of damage against that lich with each hit. So that's kind of neat. Anyway, what else? well, I guess that was just about it. The night dragged on quite a bit by that point. As you can tell from the number of combats we were in, this was both a combat-heavy session and a rather lengthy one. And even when you're tearing through your enemies like that, having a grand old time exploding the vertebra out of some undead and sending their cursed bodies to bits, as is entirely appropriate, it can start to drag on a little bit. I was quite tired by the end of the night, and it was exciting to both gain another level, so I get to have 2 attacks along with all of the other benefits I get for being a level 6 paladin, being so close to level 7 where things really get interesting, but I'm sure I'll talk about that soon. And David and I were just chilling, hanging out right before I went home and talking about what's coming in the future and where our characters have come from. It's kind of nice that Wisdom has stuck by Nagano through all of these things. He has been a very helpful friend, and we've grown strong together. The 2 of our characters ridiculously overpowered. This is sort of a legendary campaign, and I could see this going into the epic levels with few difficulties. As far as that's where it seems to be headed, if we don't die terribly first. But that is a story for another time. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me and sharing these moments with me. And as always, I really look forward to the next chance I get to play some Pathfinder with my friends. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.